All right, what's up, MOPAR fans? It's been a while, finally getting to check in with you all. I've had a wild last couple of months. Did a move. We moved from one side of Asheville to the other. You can notice my my digs. My location is a little different here. I'm in the garage at the moment, and this is my sort of workspace. My neighbor Gary is still allowing me to work on the Roadrunner over at his place, so I'm kind of back and forth, still working on the Roadrunner over there and building a metal building here in the yard behind the house. So I'm sure I'll do a video on that once we get closer to actually breaking ground. Anyway, that aside, today we're going to talk about flywheels. So I put a few videos, real quick videos about I think about having an engine run stand. Anyway, that's where I'm at right now with the engine. Buddy of mine, shout out to Clint, had a MOPAR engine run stand, had to make some modifications to it. The K member that he had was not a B body KK member, so it didn't quite fit. But anyway, I'll show you that. I'll do a separate video on that so you can see it. The engine is in the engine run stand, and the issue I'm having is that I have a cast crank and I have a neutrally balanced flywheel, which you can see here. Now, how do we know it's neutrally balanced? Number one, and I've seen a couple different ones out there. If you notice, there's not any weighting. Some of the ones I've seen sort of have an oblong, not a complete circle around. They're sort of weighted on one side, and you can't put a neutrally balanced flywheel on a cast crank. Cast cranks are internally balanced, so you need an externally balanced flywheel to compensate for that internally balanced crank. I think that's the right way to say it. So shout out to the folks over at Brewers Performance. Was looking at purchasing a externally balanced crank from them. You should go to their website. I'll put a link here in the video. And had some email conversation with those guys, and I mentioned to him that I had a neutrally balanced crank, and he said, well, you know, if you've got somebody in town that can do it for you, here's this specification. I'll try and put a link to this in the video. Essentially here, this is what he sent me. And you know, this is, if you lay this up against your flywheel, that's basically what you're looking at here. You need to go 46 degrees out. So you can see I drew some scribe lines. These have to be in the right spot, obviously. This is a 46 degree angle. And then this 46 degree angle is where your middle hole goes. And then you go 250 thousandths on either side of that. And I have my caliper here. So from my center hole, I'm at 250 thousandths on either side. And then I'm going to drill, let's see, you notice down here, I'm going to drill I'm going to take a 31 by 32 drill bit, and I'm going to drill down 660 thousandths. Now, this being a budget build, me being the cheap bastard I am, I don't want to spend 15 bucks on a 31/32 drill bit. I have a 1-inch drill bit, which is only off by about 30 thousandths, so I'm going to drill these holes with my 1-inch drill bit, and I'll have to look on ChatGPT to see what my conversion is, but I think since it's a larger drill bit, I'm gonna drill out, instead of 600 and, let's see, let me make sure I get that right. Yeah, instead of 660 thousandths, it's like 630 thousandths, maybe. We're talking about fraction, we're talking about thousandths of an inch, and like the total weight that you're going to remove by drilling these holes is a very small amount. If you're building a race engine that's going to spin up to 7,000 RPMs, you know, you're going to do it exactly right and be much more precise than what I'm going to be here. But because this is a stock 400, at least right now it's stock. Maybe one day I'll build the race engine that I would love to have. It's just going to be a stock engine. It's going to spin probably not spend more than 5,000 RPMs, and I'm going to be very gentle with it. So I'm doing everything on, you know, just a sort of regular old drill press here. And I mean, I used you know, I used this protractor, you can see here, you know, I use this protractor to get 46 degrees. And then, you know, rather than using like a layout die or anything, I just used a caliper to get the measurements that I want. So I mean, I will say too, I had an idea doing this. This is I have access to a large plotting printer, and I actually made a template like that, just to sort of sanity check the work that I'm doing. But anyway, I'm not really going to use that. I was able to use a layout pen just in case, you know, these layout pens are handy for drawing lines on, you know, oily, greasy stuff. So that is it. I'll you know, the process I'm going to do, I'm going to drill pilot holes where where the holes are going to be drilled, and then hopefully, you know, 1 inch holes like this are not a trivial thing. So my speed on this drill press needs to be right. I've got a little bit it does have speed settings on top, so hopefully I'll be able to find a setting that's acceptable. So anyway, I'm going to follow up with some more videos once I get now that I've got the layout done. I'm going to work on getting the flywheel clamped down to the drill press so it's reasonably safe and in good, you know, reasonably secure, I should say. And I'll follow up with more videos, so more to come. All right guys, this is me drilling my pilot hole. This thing's heavy enough. Normally you'd want to clamp this down and be super precise. That's just not how I do. And again, it's not a race engine, so what I'm doing here is fine. So again, this is me. I'll show you this bit that I'm using for the pilot hole after I'm done. So this is what I like when I'm doing pilot holes like this. I need something heavier. Down here so you can get a better view. This little bad boy, I'm sure there's a name for that. I don't know it right off the top of my head, but that's what I like for pilot holes. And then here's my pilot holes. So I'm probably, you know, again, the 1 inch is a big bit, so I'm probably going to start out with a smaller bit and maybe just take some of the metal off, maybe a 1/2 inch, maybe start with a 1/2 inch bit and just take out some metal. We'll see. You know, to be honest, hey, I'm just sort of figuring this out as I go. So I'll probably start out with a 1/2 inch bit, and we'll see how the machining's going, if it's looking pretty good. Again, the depth is the other thing I need to worry about, and I still need to figure out how I'm gonna set the depth. This does have a depth. It's got a little scale here, so I can sort of tell. A stop would be nice. You know, some drill bits have a stop that you can set. This does not have one, so I'm just gonna have to watch the scale and just not go any deeper than that. So more to come. All right, what's up guys? New day. I made a couple videos yesterday, you saw those. Today what I'm going to share with you is already went through the process, and I've got one hole drilled, so I'm going to let you see. I won't show the other two. I'll just do one other hole. I've got 2 more holes to drill. I'll just do the other. I'll just record one of the holes so you can see the full process. Here is, I'll get a close up so you can see there. There is one of the holes right there. So the adjustment that I made, if you recall, I said I'm using a 1-inch drill bit instead of a 31/32. And so the conversion, if you're using the 31/32 drill bit, if you're using the 31/32 drill bit, you should drill 660 thousandths. Since you're using a larger drill bit, if you're using a 1-inch, the conversion that I came up with, or I should say that AI came up with, I confirmed this with ChatGPT and Gemini, so 2 separate models. Hopefully I got a good number, but 620 thousandths is what I came up with. So you notice I've got that on my caliper, and then of course the way I'm measuring it, again, this is not, I know, don't beat me up, I'm not a machinist, so ideally this would be out of the way because I know I'm not getting a true depth here. But if you sort of lay that on the bottom, that's sort of the way I'm checking the depth to make sure that I'm going 620 thousandths. So that's what that looks like. Let me show you the other thing. The other thing is I'm doing this in 2 drilling operations. I mean 3 if you count the pilot hole. So pilot hole is number 1. I used a 1/2 inch drill bit to go down to the proper depth, 600-ish, 620 thousandths, and then I'm doing the final drilling with the 1-inch bit. I've got that, I'm using my scale here, and just the way I've got it on here, I'm just going down to about 10 is where I have it, and that's pretty close to what I want the proper depth to be. So that is that's the process. So I'm gonna just shut up and machine. Hopefully this will come out okay. You'll get to see the whole thing, and I'll probably say a few words along the way. So here we go. So the first thing I'm doing here is I need to align the hole. The other thing let me say is this height should stay the same. Like once you've got it set, and that was sort of what I did with the first hole, is you know, I did the test and I've got everything working with the same hole. So this, I'm not going to move the table height or anything. I've got it set, so I've got enough clearance to remove drill bits and do everything I need to do. So at this point, all I should have to do for these other 2 holes is just simply rotate this around. And what I'm going to do now is, now I may have to adjust the speed. In fact, I'm almost sure I will. I may have to adjust the speed on my drill bit for the 1/2 inch versus 1/2 inch versus. The other thing let me say is, if you notice, I push this all the way up in here so it stops. Again, to get a consistent depth with the drill bit, like everything needs to be the same, so I need to make sure that slides all the way up in there and stops, so I know I'm going to get the same depth, you know, if I'm going to use my scale each time. Now the way I like to do these when I'm sort of finding a hole is, before I clamp this down, I'm gonna turn the drill on and just lightly touch the workpiece. And what should happen is that because I've got this pilot hole here, the piece will somewhat move, and what I'll do is I'll have my hand on it and I may sort of move it around a little, but the idea is it should find, you know, the piece will sort of move to find center. Let's see. Looks good right there. The other thing you can do is move it around, and as you touch, you'll sort of see the drill bit move. If it's off center, when you touch, you'll see the drill bit sort of move to one side or the other, and it should be, see, that's pretty good right there. So I'm going to call that good, and I'm going to go ahead and clamp my workpiece down. Sort of machining 101, and something that my machining instructor told me once that's always stuck with me is that the old saying is, if you can't hold it, you can't machine it. So always, you know, again, machining 101 is you've got to have a clamped down. You've got to have a solid workpiece, I guess might be the way to say it. You know, the piece you're going to machine has to be stable. Stable is not the right word, but right now that's the best word that's coming to me. But it has to be locked down. It can't move. So you can never have enough clamps. Again, if I was a real machinist, I would have, there's machinist clamps that you use for a drill press work table, but these C clamps will be sufficient. All right, I like that. All right, so the other thing I've got here is some oil. This is just regular old motor oil. Again, if I was a machinist, I'd be using cutting fluid, like a real cutting fluid, but I'm just gonna liberally apply that, and you can never have enough, lubrication. And then of course, safety glasses too. All right, let's go ahead and make our initial cut. Again, I'm not gonna worry about the depth, trying to measure anything. I know I've already established that if I move my scale over here down to 10, that if I move my scale over here down to this number that I've already set and I've already confirmed is the right depth, then I don't need to worry about anything. So that's what I'm gonna do. Now that's about half the depth. I've got my shop vac handy here so I can remove some chips. So generally, you know, the workpiece and the tool will tell you if you're not doing something right. And what I mean by that is sound, smell, you know, smoke, anything like that, you really shouldn't see. This Flywheel action machine is pretty good. I think it's cast steel, cast iron, I don't know. If you notice, the chips aren't very big, but it seems to be machining fairly well. So this is pretty pleasant to machine. So I'm gonna go ahead and apply a little more lubricant and make another pass. I could have kept going, but again, I want to stop there and just clean up some chips. The other thing is, notice I can put my hand on that and it's not too hot. Again, when you're a good machining operation, like, shouldn't be violent. And I've done my share of violent machining operations, but it shouldn't be violent. There shouldn't be a lot of shaking, shouldn't be a lot of like heat, shouldn't be a lot of smoke. You know, notice, yeah, this is warm to the touch, but see, I can actually put my hand on it. So I probably don't want it any hotter than that. The other thing I'm gonna do is, I made a little drill bit here where I taped off, that's proper depth, that's roughly, again, we're talking rough here, 620 thousandths, and it's just a little sanity check for me, and I can't actually get that in there. I can remove that. When I think I'm down to the right depth, I'll remove this, but you just sort of, you know, the old measure once. See if I put that in there, I know that I'm still got a little bit to go. So yeah, the old measure 2 or 3 times, cut once thing. So I'm gonna add some more lube, and I think this should be my final pass with this drill bit. I think that should be the proper depth that I'm looking for. Yep, I like that. It's pretty close. So now I'm going to go ahead and remove this 1/2 inch bit. And actually, yeah, that's And so here's my 1-inch bit. Go ahead and install. Again, notice I'm putting that all the way up because if I come down or it's not flush, then my depth is not going to be what it's supposed to be, right? So I want to make sure things stay consistent. So alrighty, and now I'm going to go down, do the same. Go to the same depth again, 10 over here on the on my depth scale. So I'm going to run this in here and run plenty of oil there. All right, let's make a pass. Now I think my drill bit is set on the slowest setting. If you notice, a little bit of smoke, maybe a little more vibration than I would like, so I could probably go on a slower setting, but I think it's good enough. But you notice here a little more smoke. Yeah, see, it's still not hot to the touch, so it's fine. But again, in an ideal world, I'd probably slow it down a little, but I'm just going to run with it. Okay, that is my final, I think, what I believe to be my final cut. I will, my final cut for this hole. Remember, I've got one more hole to do. It's always good to check out the teeth. I always like to sort of look at the leading edge of your drill. That looks pretty good. And now let's, now that we've got that off, we can do sort of a depth check again. Ideally, you want to be straight up here, but for what we're doing, I'm happy with it, and that is, I'm gonna call that good enough. Good enough for government work, as they say. Yeah, that's it. Okay, so that's it. Again, I've got one more hole to drill right here. So I am happy with that. So again, shout out to Brewers Performance in Ohio for just sharing the information that I need. Knowledge is power, right? I was ready to buy a $350 flywheel, and hey, they were nice enough to say, hey, if you know somebody who can do it or you can do it yourself, here's the information you need. Again, I'll put a link in the comments or somewhere in the description that includes the specifications you'll need if you want to do this at home. And you know, super satisfying. I mean, it's satisfying to it's one thing to build a car or to build an old MOPAR, but it's another thing to say that you've done all the work yourself. And again, if you watch my other videos, that was the goal with this build. No, I'm not going to pay a machinist to do any machining work. Again, that was the goal. Now, certainly been more time consuming, but very, very satisfying. So that's all for now. Thanks. All right, so I thought I'd do one final, just show you the finished product here. Finished up my holes. I noticed actually one of them's off. You notice that this, if you look at where I landed, center, those are not great. Ideally, I would have had a scribe. I would have found center, had a scribe, and I would have came along here and scribed, but I don't have one, so I had to make do with what I had. But again, I think for what I'm building here, it's going to be fine. So yeah, I mean, this was again, I'll post a link to this schematic. This is everything you need to do the work. And so hope you all enjoyed the video. Again, my goal with these is to show you that you don't there's a lot you can do around the house with, you know, fairly basic tools. This is nothing more than a drill press that actually I didn't even my neighbor, good friend of mine, gave me that drill press years ago. So there's a lot you can do with just pretty standard tools, and really knowledge is the key. Knowing the work that you need to do. And again, it depends on what you're trying to do too. This is in my case, I'm building a stock engine, so very different thing if you're talking about a higher performance or a race engine. That's it. Everybody have a great rest of your day, and see you in the next video.